Hello everyone and welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. We've got a flurry of trades to discuss. I'm going to talk about 3 of them in this video, as the Toronto Maple Leafs are making a huge push to try and get past the first round this year, as they've made 3 significant moves before the trade deadline today. We'll get to all the details coming up right now. Hello and welcome to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now the Maple Leafs have made 3 pretty significant moves over the past 6 to 8 hours, as they've made some huge deals to try and get themselves some more playoff experience on the back end and reshaping that blue line to try and make it better. Now, in the earlier video I posted today, we did talk about the Jake McCabe deal, how they got Sam Lafferty and Jake McCabe from the Blackhawks, a really good deal. I really liked it for them. McCabe is like the Muzzin replacement, Lafferty's a good bomb 6 forward, but they've made 3 pretty significant moves, in my opinion, to try and rework this roster even more, to be even more of a powerhouse to try and take down the Tampa Bay Lightning in this year's first round of the playoffs, most likely. We'll start with the first one that went down, as Erik Gustafsson and the Boston Bruins 2023 first-round pick were traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for young defender Rasmus Sandin. Now, I think this is a really surprising and bold move by the Maple Leafs. Sandin has done okay this year, and there's still some talk about if he has a long-term fit as a top 4 defenseman for Toronto, and obviously they felt that he could get a good enough return for now that he should be traded, and they wound up doing it. So first, from the Maple Leafs perspective, they get a 2023 first-round pick. This is the first-round pick that Washington got from Boston in the Dmitry Orlov trade. So once again, this pick is going to be low, probably pick number 27 to 32 in this year's draft, so I wouldn't expect it to be too high, and there's some talk that the Maple Leafs may flip it to try and even improve this roster even more, so it's quite possible that the Maple Leafs do not retain that pick beyond this deadline, so it's quite possible that we could see something happen with the Maple Leafs moving that first-round pick of Boston's, but they get a first-round pick back for Sandin, which I think is really good value, given the fact that Sandin was a former first-round pick, so he hasn't really developed into that star-level player that he was drafted to be, so getting a first-round pick is good. They also get veteran defender Erik Gustafsson. Now, Gustafsson had a career season in the 2018-19 season with the Chicago Blackhawks. Ever since then, his point totals have taken a really big beating. He hasn't really put up more than 20 points in a season. Last year, once again with the Blackhawks and another stint with them, he had 3 goals, 18 points in 59 games, which is sort of how he's been doing over the past little while. He signed an almost minimum league deal with the Capitals, gone to their roster. He got into a lot of games, given the fact that he's shown he's really good, and that John Carlson and some of the other defenders have been out due to injuries this year. And he's done fantastic. He has 7 goals and 38 points in 61 games. Now, this is nowhere close to his career high of 60 points, but this is a pretty damn good season for Gustafsson. It's his second best in the NHL, and I think he's done fantastic. So going to Toronto, he'll be able to probably play a good third-pair role with Toronto, be a good offensive defenseman. He should probably be able to get into a couple of games. I'm not exactly sure if he'll be a consistent third-pair defenseman with the Maple Leafs' depth on defense. But I definitely do think that this is a really big win for the Maple Leafs. Gustafsson is a really, really good third pair, maybe 7th defenseman. He's had a phenomenal season this year with point-wise, and I think he should definitely be able to continue to push some pretty good point totals as he has earlier this year with Washington. They get a first-round pick, but they do give up a pretty good player. As for Washington's side, they get Rasmus Sandin. Now, we know the Capitals don't want to do a full rebuild. They want to compete as long as they can while Alex Ovechkin's still on the team. So they're not going to try any rebuilds. So this is sort of what people were saying about when the Caps wanted to retool and sort of try and fix this team on the fly. Sandin signed for this year, next year, a $1.4 million cap hit. So this is a really good move by the Capitals. He's going to be an RFA at the end of the deal. So given the fact that the Capitals had a lot of pending unrestricted free agent defensemen and only Carlson was signed past this year, they now have Sandin, who I think in Washington will be able to flourish as a top 4 defenseman for Washington. I think he should be able to get consistent second pair minutes with Washington, especially with them moving out so many players right now. And I think if he can show that he's a really good second pair defenseman, this could be a huge win for Washington. So I really do like this. Sandin has done okay this year, but a lot better than last year, and he's having a career season. Last year had 5 goals, 16 points in 51 games. This year, 4 goals, 20 points in 52 games. So a really big win for the Capitals. I think for the Caps, this helps now and in the future. Sandin's already a really good NHL defenseman. If he can continue to grow the way he has this year, I think he could easily be a top 4 defenseman for the Caps. So, huge win for Washington. For the Maple Leafs, it is bad to give up Sandin. He's a really good young player, and I think he had a bright future with the Maple Leafs, but they ended up trading him. They get a first-round pick in the 2023 draft from Washington, which was the Bruins, so it's not going to be a very high pick, and if they do wind up keeping it, it's not going to be a very high draft selection. But they could also use it as a trade chip to try and get something else for this playoff run. As for Gustafsson, pending UFA, also the Maple Leafs will save $600,000 in money with the contracts of Sandin and Gustafsson swapping, so another good perspective of this deal for the Maple Leafs. And Gustafsson has produced a whole bunch more than Sandin. So even though Sandin's good and young and looks like he has a bright future, Gustafsson's being a good point-producing defenseman right now, and that's sort of the thing that the Maple Leafs need to try and push for getting past the first round this year. So I think for now, and possibly in the future, this is a win for the Capitals. I think Sandin has a bright future as a top 4 defenseman, and he should be able to fit really well on the Washington Capitals team now and in the future. He's signed for this year and next year, and he's a restricted free agent, so he can be remaining with the Capitals for a while. For the Maple Leafs, they get a first-round pick. They can use that either as assets or they can keep it and maybe pick in the low end of the first round in this year's upcoming draft. As for Gustafsson, he's a good third-pair defenseman. He's put up a ton of points this year, really revitalized his career. And I think the addition of Gustafsson on that third pair will be great for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the Maple Leafs also made 2 other moves to clear cap space and improve that back end even more. First, they sent Pierre Engvall, who's a good bottom 6 forward, to the New York Islanders in exchange for a 2024 third-round pick. So, pretty good move for both these sides. We know the Islanders have a couple of injuries right now. Wallstrom's most likely out for the rest of the season. Barzal's out week to week right now. They also have a couple of other injuries to their forward group, so they're a pretty banged up team. Engvall should be able to slot into that third line role and be a good speedy winger for the Islanders. I think he should be able to help even on the penalty kill. I think this is a really good addition for the Islanders, really under the radar type of addition. They already got Horvat. They're still competing for a playoff spot. I think this is a really good move by the Isles, and I think that I don't see a long-term future with Engvall. He's depending on restricted free agent at the end of the year, so probably isn't with the team beyond this season, but I think he's a good addition to try and help the Islanders push, and they make good with the Maple Leafs having a tight roster situation. As for the Maple Leafs, they need to clear cap space. They already added guys like Lafferty and Acciari onto the lineup. They really didn't have enough room for a guy like Engvall, so they move him to the Islanders. In exchange, they get a third-round draft pick in next year's draft. Not too shabby. The Maple Leafs have given a lot of draft capital up over the past couple of weeks with all the O'Reilly trade and the McCabe trade. So getting a third-round pick in next year's draft, as well as getting that first-round pick in this year's draft, may help them retain more assets for this playoff run right now. But it also does help them just get some draft capital if they want to end up keeping it and drafting some more young talent for this team. So pretty good move by both teams. I think Isles get a good speedy top 9 forward who can help with guys like Barzal and Wahlstrom injured right now. The Maple Leafs clear up some cap space and get a third-round pick in return. As for the Vancouver Canucks, they sent Luke Schenn to the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for the Maple Leafs 2023 third-round pick. Now, this is a pretty good deal for both sides. The Canucks have been reportedly wanting to get a third-round pick for Schenn for a while now, and there have been some talk that the Schenn rumors were heating up, so I don't think it's too surprising Schenn was moved. So they get their third-round pick. I think this is a really good move by Vancouver. I know Schenn was a really liked guy in the Canucks locker room, and I know new coach Rick Tocchet also really liked him, but the offer they got for Schenn, they just couldn't refuse, so they get a third-round pick in this year's draft and now have 7 picks in the first 4 rounds of this year's draft, so good for Vancouver to start getting some assets. I think this is a really big win for Vancouver. As for the Maple Leafs, they get another big defensive addition. They get Luke Schenn, who should be able to get into maybe a top 6, maybe top 4 role. I think top 4, they probably have Brody and Logan on the right side, so on the Leafs, he'll probably play a more third-pair role, but another really good addition for the Maple Leafs on that blue line. Schenn's had a better season than he did last year. Last year, he had 17 points in 66 games. This year, 18 points in 55, so play 11 less games, already has more points. So he's done a really great job this year. A really good physical top 4 defenseman for Vancouver. He'll be a good third-pair defenseman in Toronto. And he'll prove the Maple Leafs even more as they're trying to get a lot tougher to play against. And I think the Schenn addition will definitely help that team to try and bounce the Lightning from the first round in this year's first round series, which is most likely going to be Bolts and Leafs. So for today, the Maple Leafs have gotten Erik Gustafsson from the Capitals, the Bruins 2023 first round pick, the Islanders 2024 third round pick, and Luke Schenn. So they've bolstered their defense. They get a good offensive defenseman in Gustafsson. They get a tougher to play against defenseman in Schenn. So they really have helped that defense become harder to play against. Both these players have pretty good chances to play on third pair roles. Given the Maple Leafs' depth, I think both of them could also be healthy scratches on occasions, but good for Schenn to finally have the trade rumors behind him and find a home where he's going to play for the rest of the season. Good for Gustafsson to get an opportunity on a playoff team, as Washington was more of a fringe playoff team. And the Maple Leafs get some assets that they could use before Friday's trade deadline. As for the other teams to make trades, Caps get a huge piece in Rasmus Sandin. Even though they had to give up a first-round pick to get him, I think this is a huge move for the Capitals. Sandin should be a fixture on the top four for Washington for the next few years, and I think the Capitals wind up winning that trade right now. Depending on what happens with that 2023 first-round pick and how good Gustafsson plays with the Maple Leafs, and if he can help them get to the next round of the playoffs, maybe the Maple Leafs win that deal, but in my opinion, I think that the Capitals do wind up winning that deal. As for the Islanders, they get Engvall, good speedy top 9 winger, who I think should be able to help the Islanders, especially with guys like Barzal and Wahlstrom injured right now. I think that the third round pick was a little bit much to give up, given the fact that Engvall hasn't had as good of a season as last year. After having 35 points in 78 games last year, only having 21 and 58 this year, so he hasn't done as well. So I'm a little bit surprised the Leafs were able to get a third round pick for him, so I'll probably say the Leafs win that deal as of right now. But if Engvall can help the Islanders maybe make the playoffs, maybe do well in the playoffs, if he can really turn his point total around from this year, I think the Islanders could win this deal, but for now I think it's the Maple Leafs. As for the Schenn deal, the Canucks get that third round pick they really wanted. I think this is a good move by Vancouver, but given the fact that Toronto's trying to get tougher to play against, I think the Maple Leafs do win this deal, given the fact that Schenn is a really, really good top 4 defenseman. But I do think that if the Canucks can really hit home on that third round pick and Schenn leaves as a free agent come to July 1st free agency, I think that the Canucks could easily win this deal as well. So 3 good trades by the Leafs. They're making a flurry of deals right now, and I would not expect them to be done, as there's some talk that they could still make maybe 1 or 2 more moves before a deadline. So Leafs make their defense a whole lot harder to play against. Caps get Sandin for now and in the future. Islanders get Engvall to help with their beat-up forward group, and Vancouver gets a third-round pick for Luke Schenn. So let me know what you think about all of these trades down in the comment section. I'd like to hear your opinion. But that's all I'm going to talk about in this video. Remember to like this video and subscribe. I also do a blog, which I will leave a link to in the description below. Keep watching, as I may release a couple more videos later on in the week as well. And I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.